I can actually see whether our slides are up there, and they are, that's good. Hi, it's a pleasure to be here, thank you for having me. I'm particularly excited to be in Paris today, actually. I'm going to give you a little bit of my own background before I talk about my company. First and foremost, Paris is where I met and courted my wife. My son was actually born just a few miles from where I'm standing, so I've got a very long-standing love affair with Paris. I'm very pleased to be back. Essentially, I'm going to show you a picture to start with here that I'm thinking you probably won't have seen before and almost certainly won't see again. So I'm sorry to do this to you. There you are. This is by way of waking you up and breaking the ice. That picture of the very dodgy looking chap is me. I used to be a dancer. So this is twofold. One is to break the ice and make the introduction, but two is to establish my credentials as nothing to do with technology whatsoever. My tech team, my CTO, they actually help me turn on my computer in the mornings. So I come from a background that's quite befuddled by tech. I'm also the ideal test balloon for my company. If I can make our product work and understand it, then so can all of our audience. So that's basically why I'm here now. Starting out as a dancer was great, but from there I've basically moved on and had a very privileged position working in the physical art world. Now this is essentially bricks and mortar galleries. I ran a gallery in Zurich, I ran a gallery in Paris for a period of time, and I was a director of our gallery in London for several years as well. This is all bricks and mortar physical artworks, but it did give me the relationships that we founded Sedition, and the artists that we brought on board when we set it up. Now, it's an incredibly privileged world, the art world. My time there was hypnotic, seductive, wonderful, charming, everything you'd want from a situation like that. But at the same time, it gave me a lot of food for thought, and this is what brought Sedition into being. During my time as a dealer, I was privileged to walk into an apartment in London, and one of our collectors, who I just sold a painting to, I walk into his lounge. On the front wall there, as I walk in, there's a Gerhard Richter painting. It's worth about 50 million. As I progress into his lounge, there's a Monet on that wall, there's a Picasso on that wall. And this carried on right the way through the apartment. Within 10 meters of entering the room, I think I'd seen about $200 million of art. This was quite surprising. Some of these pieces are the pieces that you see on the magazines and the books that you study when you're doing your art degree. So for me, as a fledgling dealer, this was quite the eye-opener. And it got better than that. I remember distinctly one of the stories I always tell people about the OTC or OTT, so the nature of the art world, is we once took a painting to the airport, a very expensive piece, I can't tell you who it is, but the collector flew into the airport, landed on the runway, my technicians took the painting onto the plane, he viewed it, decided to buy it, and flew off again without ever disembarking from the plane. So again, this is a real look at, wow, how does the other half of the world live? And whilst that's great, and seductive and exciting, it also made me think that there should be something different. That process I'm talking about, the sort of pinnacle of all that, leads to what you're seeing on your screen here now. This is a Leonardo da Vinci. It's the most expensive painting ever sold in auction. It went for $450 million. Now I realise that's not going to get anyone excited here. This was back when $450 million was a lot of money. But the NFT crowd, you can probably all buy your own Leonardo da Vinci's, but for people that can't, this is why we set up Sedition. The whole point of Sedition is to make contemporary art available, the best art that comes from the Monets and Picassos of today's generation, and it should be available to everyone at a reasonable price. That's the whole concept behind Sedition. Now, oh, that's not working. There we go, sorry. So, I'm just going back, I've just jumped forward up 4 steps here. There we go. Now, we've been building this up for some time. The numbers you see on the screen here give you an indication of where our platform's at the moment. So we've started up with a lot of very exciting, very established artists. These are names like Damien Hirst, Tracy Emin, Yoko Ono, Bill Viola. These guys exist on the platform. Along with them, there's a whole bunch of emerging artists you've probably never heard of, and along with them, there's a whole bunch of guys in the middle who you may or may not have heard of. You will have done if you're interested in art and if you follow it. So the artists are where we started. That's what founded our company. We've got more than 6,000 artworks on there. Most of those are editions, which means actually the full number is far higher than that. Some of them are unique pieces. The number we're most proud of, 100K plus customers. Now again, this is not like the kind of numbers you're going to see on OpenSea, but for an art platform like ours, this is very exciting. There's 107,000 people on the site at the moment who are signed up, active, art viewing, gallery going, museum visiting, art purchasing people. And that's really important. So, you're probably wondering, what does all this have to do with NFTs? Well, not a whole lot yet, but I'm getting there. So before I do, I just want to check a couple of things. I myself am an avid collector. I'm an ex-artist myself. How many people here consider themselves to be a collector? Raise your hands if you've bought an artwork in the last 12 months. That's more than I thought. Then again, you're the NFT crowd, so that's great. But our ambition is to turn all of you into collectors one way or another. So, what does it have to do with NFTs? Well, I'm about to tell you. I want to tell you a little bit about the history of art before we can talk about NFTs. Don't worry, I'm not going into the history of art per se, we'll be here all day. Just the bits that translate to what we're talking about. In Sedition, we like to talk about the transition from pigment to pixels. Now this is essentially just the idea that there's no inherent value in the arrangement of pigment on canvas, and there's no inherent value in the arrangement of pixels on a screen. What you're paying for is the artist's genius, the artist's ability to rearrange that in a pleasing manner for you. The other transition, of course, that's important for this is from one-of-a-kind, unique, individual pieces like paintings and the Mona Lisa and this kind of thing, through to limited editions, or the art world multiple. Now, digital didn't invent this. This is something that's been around for a very long time within the art world. But we consider the digital edition to be the natural evolution of silk screens, etchings, woodcuts, the things that previously were used as art world multiples. And then, of course, you've got the shift from physical to digital, which is really what Sedition's all about. Most of all is the last one. That's what we're here to talk about today. The idea of shifting from a centralized model to a decentralized model. In other words, shifting it onto the blockchain. Now, the history of Sedition. We've been around much longer than most other platforms in this space because we weren't NFTs to begin with. Sedition invented our own version of NFTs. There was no blockchain, there was no decentralized option when we set it up. So in 2011, we invented the digital edition. We started selling it as a B2C business, but it's all very much contained on Sedition's computers and our own ledgers. It's a centralized setup. Now, in 2013, I came on board as director. Again, that was always part of the plan. We started with techs and people who really knew their way around computers, but we always wanted somebody who was alive to the nuance and the sensitivities of the art world to be at the head of the company once we got it up and running. After 2013, our next step was licensing. Now, this wasn't actually planned this early, it was going to come later. But as soon as we had the site up and running, we very quickly had corporations, people like Hyundai, LG, Samsung, we're the official artwork provider for Marriott International Hotels, their Edition brand. And a lot of these companies want to use the artwork for their own purposes. Now they can do that, but it's got nothing to do with the price you see on the site. They have to come to us and buy a public display license. We negotiate this separately in partnership with our artists and deliver that way. Once we've delivered that, we decided to shift onto a subscription revenue as well. This isn't changing, this is adding. We're adding several different revenue streams for the artist. So the idea is an artist comes to the site, sets up shop, and has 4 or 5 different revenue streams they can take on board without having to sign their life away exclusively, and they can put themselves in front of our audience and start building a career. That's worked very well, and all of our game plan was progressing exactly as we thought, right up until it all fell out of bed because the pandemic hit. Now, I'm sure you're all fairly used to that story. I'm not the only one whose company got hit by the pandemic, but the fastest growing part of our company was licensing, physical events, concerts, stadiums, shows, theatres, all of this. But it stopped dead. The pandemic came in and everything just stopped on a knife edge overnight. Now, that would have been disastrous, except we were very lucky as a company. All of our audience that were going to these events disappeared, but that same audience suddenly found themselves trapped at home, stuck within the same 4 walls and desperately looking for a way to improve those 4 walls. And that's exactly what my company does. It provides artworks. You can completely change your environment for a very low fee. So that was really the story post-pandemic. We lost a lot of business. We stayed and saw it build back up on the online side of the business. And now that the physical side and the pandemic, well, it's not ending, but it's settling. Now that that's all evening out, the physical works are coming back online, and we're seeing that happen again, which is great. Now, that brings me up to the present day. This is the exciting part, and this is where we start to talk about NFTs. So, what are we going to be doing first? We are planning to put NFTs onto the blockchain. Sorry, our artworks as NFTs on the blockchain will be happening this summer. We expect to have the first ones on the site around about June. Now, when I say blockchain, we are looking at using Ethereum. We've very deliberately held back from doing this. We've been a company that's ideally suited for NFTs and blockchain treatment for a very long time. It's not an accident that we're this late coming into the party. We've held back because it didn't do everything we wanted it to. We had some concerns about the ecological impact of the blockchain, particularly proof of work versus proof of stake. We had some concerns about the maturity of smart contracts, the way the market was behaving. There was a whole bunch of things that weren't quite how we wanted them to be. And obviously we've been in discussion with all of our artists on the site as well. It's very important we take this step with them since we support their business. So we are now looking at Ethereum. We're doing this because we believe that the shift from proof of work to proof of stake is coming this year. I'm well aware that this has been mooted for a very long time and hasn't happened yet. So we're going to be making very limited use of the proof of work blockchain until such time as that shift takes place. Once that shift takes place, we can put a lot more of our artworks and our product onto the blockchain. If it still spins out, it doesn't happen for another year or so, eventually we'll simply pivot to a different blockchain. There's an awful lot of artworks on Sedition. We have a very big community of artists. The ecological impact and the way this is done is far too important to us and to them to get it wrong. So we'll be doing this initially on the Ethereum blockchain, but if that shift doesn't happen, we will shift again. 2023, we'll be doing a token launch and our first airdrop. Now, all of this is fairly ambitious. Since the beginning of last year, we've trebled the size of our team, and we're working hard to deliver all of this as we speak. However, we would like some more help for it, so I'm going to shamelessly use my podium up here to say that if any of you happen to be Solidity engineers, or full-stack engineers, or if you have a speciality on Ruby on Rails, we'd love to talk to you. If you're interested in what we're doing and the journey that we're undertaking and you'd like to help, please come and see us. We're at booth 21. Now, I recognise just calling out and saying we might want to hire people is not going to be enough to persuade you, so we're going to shamelessly buy your love. If you can come and see us at booth 21, scan that code there, you can come and get a free artwork. Now, the artworks on Sedition are not the kind of things you're normally going to see within the NFT space, just stills or very short GIFs. We are working around this because the artworks we have are far more complex and far more sizable in terms of the files. We're coming up with ways to attach those to NFTs in such a way that you don't have to reduce the complexity or the resolution or the file size of the artwork. So these are quite complex pieces and not the kind of thing you may have discovered before. So please, scan that code, join us on our socials, join our Twitter or Discord. I've just literally now launched our Discord channel, so we desperately need you guys to come and join it. It's a blank space at the moment, so we'd love to see you there. But we're not stopping there either. If you are willing, come to our booth, and this is another shameless plug, take a selfie and post it onto your socials. The best one will win €1,000 in Ether, which will deliver ASAP. Now when I say the best one, essentially it's anything that can make me look good. So you have your work cut out for you. Now, this has been obviously a very potted history, both of Sedition, the art world, the shift towards NFTs and everything in there. I'm hopeful it will have given rise to several questions, so the last part of this we're going to open it up to you guys and ask for any questions you might have. So please raise your hands if you have anything. That's a very quiet audience. Go ahead.
I was wondering, how do you curate the emerging artists on your platform? On what kind of criteria?
There are two platforms on Sedition. There's the curated platform and an open platform. The curated platform is, as the name suggests, very heavily curated, and it's invitation only. You can only appear there if we invite you there. So that's how you would curate that. You're not going to have an emerging artist unless we think they're brilliant. They're not going to be on the curated platform. But the toggle behind that is something called open platform. Now this is a free forum where any artist in the world, everyone in this room, me, my sister, however established they are, can come up, put their works on and start putting them in front of the Sedition audience and building a career. It's a very useful tool. Most importantly of all, I'm an ex-artist. We're making this for artists. We will never ask an artist to come to the site, to put their work on there and be exclusive to Sedition. If anyone asks you to do that, laugh at them. You should never be exclusive to a site. You're an artist. If you are an artist, put yourself out into as many different avenues as possible. Make your name, establish your reputation, your prices will rise. It's better for us and it's better for you as well. The corollary of that is your artworks. They should be exclusive. We don't want the same artwork on different platforms at different prices. It undermines the market and creates a bad faith for everyone. The artist themselves, however, we will actively help you. We'll put you into magazines, we'll interview you, we'll blog, tweet, post, act as social media support for anything you do in the physical domain as well as everything you do in the digital domain. It's a very useful voice for an artist to have. And above all else, you don't need to sign up exclusively, you don't need to restrict yourself. Just come, open up your shop and start building a career. I hope that answers that. How do we curate it? By picking the best. The other way we curate it, open platform artists who perform very well get invited across to the curated platform. Anything else?
You said it doesn't work, but maybe
It's good.
you can hear me?
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yeah, it's
Because I
working.
don't hear myself. Hello? Now I hear myself. Why Ethereum? Because there are so many other blockchains existing. Well, you could easily build up on near Tezos whatsoever. Why would you wait for Ethereum merge?
That's a very good question, and it's something that we've been going backwards and forwards on for, well, quite a while now, actually. There are a group of artists on the site who we work very closely with who have all made a collective on Tezos. So we spent a lot of the last year trying that out, dipping our toe in the water and actually dipping a few things onto Tezos to see how that works. We like it. We don't think the market is mature enough or deep enough yet for most of our collectors. We're trying to balance the needs of the artists along with the needs of the collectors and looking at where most people want that marketplace to be. Ultimately, Ethereum blockchain does everything now that we want it to except proof of work versus proof of stake. And we believe that is now being resolved, so there's no reason for us not to use it. If it spins out ad infinitum and it doesn't get resolved, then we will not use it, we'll shift. Anyone else? Any questions? No? Thank you very much for listening. It's been a real pleasure here speaking to you. Please do come and see us on the booth. We can basically bend your ear and twist your arm and get you to buy lots of artworks. In sincerity, one of the things I should tell you is one of the things we're doing differently is the artworks on Sedition have been digital editions since 2011. So there's quite a few of them that are sitting in people's vaults and in their collections. They're nothing to do with Sedition anymore. One of the mechanisms we're introducing will allow the collectors, the people who own those artworks, to mint those themselves. They'll simply go through the gateway we provide them, they'll pay the gas fee, and they'll list it onto the blockchain themselves. It will not change the ownership, authorship, or originator of the work. All of that will accrue to the artist. The IP and copyright remains with the artist, but the indelible ownership record and the blockchain and decentralized system for that will be there, which means you can take advantage of the price movements, you can have an absolutely trustworthy and transparent ownership record, and of course you can sell the artworks on Sedition or take them outside and sell them on OpenSea. That's the main change we're making. The idea is to increase transparency, increase trust, and make a much more robust answer to the question that everyone's always asked me since we set up Sedition, which is, what happens if you guys fall under a bus? What happens if you die and everything goes down tomorrow? Previously, we got past this by blocking out time on our servers. I've got a 5-year block on our servers so that if I die or get blown up or hit by a bus, those artworks will exist for 5 years to allow people to come up with an avenue to keep track of them and keep hold of them in some other way. But it's a sort of a hodgepodge. It's not really the system we want to have. The system we want to have is a decentralized ledger where if I'm here or not, it makes no difference. You've still got your artworks, you've still got everything you've collected, and you can trade, buy, collect, give them away, anything you want. So, thank you.